Okay, official welcome to group 2 for this webinar on stop holding back, how to say 100% yes to your goals. And we have people here from mostly from Europe, Australia and the UK. Is there anybody who's not in one of those areas? So we have a lot of different countries represented here. Thanks everybody ever so much for turning up live. I always appreciate those who do. Most people who sign up for a webinar, especially a free webinar, they just want to watch the recording at their convenience. And I know, and you know, that a lot of times that just doesn't happen. So if you are here live or you are watching the recording, good on you. You're already taking action ahead of what most people are going to do. So I hope to make this worth your while, and I'm going to give you as much as I can in the time that we have available on this topic of 100% yes. As you know, I run this as a group coaching program. We do it over 6 months, and even in the 6-month program, we don't get to cover everything. So I'm only going to be able to give you a bit of a taster and an overview, hopefully of some of the really most important parts. So let me just share my screen and start so that we can move through this. Also hoping to demonstrate for those of you who are brand new to intention tapping, and even to those who know intention tapping, how you can use this amazing approach to get yourself unstuck, get you moving, and help you to say yes to your goals where part of you may be holding back. Okay, as always, have to go through the disclaimer. This is informational and educational and not medical advice. Even though intention tapping in its entirety incorporates a range of evidence-based components, the whole process has not been researched sufficiently in the scientific paradigm. So therefore, it still must largely be considered experimental as a whole. And therefore, there's no guaranteed outcomes for any particular person. Just because it's worked really well for thousands of people so far doesn't mean that it's going to do exactly that for you. So you'll have to take responsibility for your use of it. And if you are dealing with physical and mental health issues, you should be consulting with a physician and or therapist. Okay, my aim, as I mentioned, is to give you as much of this as I can cram into this webinar. And I already feel myself speeding up to try and go through fast. But in actual fact, if we focus in on the important bits, that will be most useful. The aim is to help you to learn some ways to release the resistance to taking action, because we all have this resistance. And I have been studying this my whole life. I have at times been a master procrastinator. I have had significant resistance to doing all kinds of things. And of course, like you, I'm still confronting resistance. The best thing now is that I have intention tapping, and like you, it only works for me when I use it. So it's kind of like a constant reminder to use the process, because it tends to work when you use it, and it tends to not work when you don't use it. The whole process is about helping you to change how you feel and get into action. It's not just some, let's teach you how to raise your vibration and everything will come to you. My work with peak performers in business and in sports and in every area shows that the people who are doing stuff about it, a lot more of their goals are being achieved than the people who are not. So you've come to a program about taking action, so let's focus on that. The 100% yes process is something that I developed over a number of years, and I've been constantly working on refining. And these are pretty much the same steps that I have been working with all along. The difference is that we now incorporate this wonderful intention tapping into this process, and it really helps us to leverage and accelerate the results that we can get in shifting and releasing limiting and blocking beliefs, and helping you to release attachments to false values and false ideas that are holding you back. So the process is about deciding what success is to you, and ultimately coming up with your own personal version of success. And, I think success is like your toothbrush. It's personal. It's something that you should have for you, and you should design for you, because what everybody else wants, you don't necessarily want. And even if you do want it, you don't want it in the same degree that everyone else does necessarily, when it comes down to it. And you know what? And if you do, you can have that too. That's fine. But some people I work with in my group program, they don't even like the word success, because that's got narrow meaning to a lot of people. So they prefer to just talk about, what it is to have a good life, or the changes that they specifically want to make. Whatever it is anyway, you got to decide. And some people, that's where the problem comes up, right there, deciding what you want. But you know what? A lot of people know what they want, and they still haven't decided to have it. So there's a couple of decisions that you need to make: what you want, and then the decision to have it. The minute you engage in any process to make major changes in your life, you're going to have all your limiting BS come up. And this is belief systems, right? But it's also BS, because it's, just crapola, my mentor Frank Farrelly would call it, crapola that we believe, that gets in the way of us being able to have what we want and do what we want and be the ways we want in the world. And so this process is mainly focused on working on your beliefs and working on your values, because your beliefs about yourself, your beliefs about what's possible for you, your beliefs about the world, they're going to limit what you can have and do and be. And then your values, which I think is really crucial for success. And one definition of success is living your values. If you don't know what they are and you haven't clarified them, then that's why you're not happy. If you don't know what's really most important to you, and you haven't focused your energy on that, then that's the biggest thing you need to change. And so I find that a lot of people are giving more time and more energy to lower value things and lower value activities. And that's often because they're getting hooked, because the whole world is trying to hook you into saying, this is what's important, this is what you need to do, which is what they want, not necessarily what you want. And so you can be hooked into other people's values, you can be hooked into false values, and you can also have a kind of internal civil war going on between the parts of you that want this and parts of you that want that. That's the stuff that you want to sort out. And once you work out your values, then you're going to set different goals, and your goals are going to be more inspiring. So I don't do goal setting until I've done values work, because it's really important first to work out what is really important to you, what you really want at the core. And then you can set goals in line with your values, and they're going to be more inspiring for you. Even then, though, you'll still need to work on your commitment and work on planning and preparation and practice and action and persistence. And, someone said, I think it was Robert Schuller, all spectacular achievement is preceded by unspectacular preparation. So we don't want to do the preparation. We don't want to do the work. We don't want to do the practice. We don't want to have to take action. I said to the group this morning, I don't want to have to market my business. I want the work to just come in. I don't want to have to do web pages and blog posts. Sometimes, sometimes. That's what you got to get over if you want to get it done. Okay, so we're going to quickly move through some of these parts, and then what I want to do is to bring in the techniques and how you can use them. And I'm going to focus with you today on the values aspect, because this morning I did some work on beliefs, and because there's 2 recordings, you're going to get both of them. And so you're live here today. Some of you can, hopefully take whatever we get done today, and then you can go and have a watch of the other recording, and maybe skip through the content, which is basically the same, but have a look at the coaching session. And there's a lot to be gained from doing that and tapping along with that, if you already know tapping. So the first step is to decide decide what you want, decide what success is to you, and then decide to actually have it. And I work with a lot of people on their goals, and and their vision, and what they want for their life and what they want for their business and so on. And sometimes they know what they want, and I just say, well, why don't you decide to do that then? Why don't you decide to have that? If you know that that's what you want, then go for it. Why don't you just go for it? Well, the reason why we don't go for it is because we have blocks, and blocks come up when we ask ourselves what we want. Blocks come up when we start thinking about making things better. Blocks come up when we start thinking about succeeding at a higher level. And those blocks are, our limiting subconscious beliefs. They come up to consciousness. And this is a great thing, actually. It doesn't feel great, because when, you want to make a positive change and go, yeah, this will be really good for me. And then you go, I don't have the energy. I've run out of juice. Why am I procrastinating? Why am I sabotaging myself? Why, because fear comes up. Whatever you have attached to this comes up, because you've already got emotional attachments that are in the way of you achieving your goal. Otherwise, you'd be doing it. They're in the way of you building your career or building your business. Otherwise, you'd be doing it. You'd be saying yes, 100% yes, and there'd be nothing in your way. But you have collected these emotional attachments through your life to thoughts about you and what's possible for you and who you are as a person and what your life is like and so on. And you release some of that stuff, and you can change your whole life. You really can. Many of you, if you know me, you've seen this slide 1,000 times, because it was key for me discovering the process of intention tapping. And I had read it before, and I already kind of knew this, but in this particular time when I was suffering, and I was drawn back to Byron Katie's wonderful book, Loving What Is, and I was reading this line, and she says, it's not our thoughts, it's the attachment to our thoughts that causes suffering. And I know that, right? I know that. And I also knew tapping. And I knew that tapping could release that attachment, because you have a thought, and then you think that thought, and it worries you, or it upsets you, or it scares you, or it triggers you, or whatever. And then you do the tapping, and then you think the same thought, and it doesn't affect you. So it's not the thought, it's what I call the emotional attachment to that thought. And so I knew that tapping shifted those emotional attachments in some way. But in this particular moment, I had this insight: what if we could use intention to do that thing instead of just tapping? And I formed a simple intention in that moment, which has become a core part of what I now call intention-based energy process, which is a component of intention tapping. And that intention was, I release all my emotional attachments to this problem. And the first time I did that, I wasn't tapping. I was just focusing on this problem that I had. And I just had this big release, just equivalent to the biggest releases I'd had from using tapping. And it was just instant and spontaneous and beautiful. And it was a great thing. And then I used it again on another aspect of the problem, and the same thing happened. I had a big yawn, big release. And every time I used this particular intention, it's just shifted something. Then after using it a bit, I realized there was a disturbance in the body, in my chest. And of course, I realized, yeah, there's a body disturbance when we're upset, when we're blocked, when we have a problem. There's something going on in the body. If there wasn't a feeling in the body that was the problem, how would we know we had a problem? How would there really be a problem? Okay. It's only how things make us feel that causes the biggest problems in our lives. So I noticed this disturbance in my chest. And again, I thought, yeah, tapping. Tapping restores the energy flow. When you have a blockage in energy flow or a disturbance in flow, you do the tapping, it restores things back to flow. And again, I had this insight, what if we could use intention? And so I formed the simple intention. I restore the right energy flow to my chest, instant, spontaneous, deep breath, clearing of the feeling, and clarity in my thinking. And I'm like, wow, this is interesting. Anyway, long story short, I started playing around with this. I shared it with my wife first and then with a colleague of mine. They all got results. Then I started experimenting using this with myself and with clients and discussing it with other people and, you know, doing a little bit of informal research. And it worked consistently. So now I combine this process of intentions that I call IEP, intention-based energy process, with the tapping and call it intention tapping. And of course, I learned that you can restore energy flow and you can restore energy balance. So the tapping we use is what we call simple energy techniques. And it's something I developed with my good friend, Dr. David Lake. David is from Sydney, lives in the northern beaches of Sydney. And he and I spent a good 20 years after we learned EFT running around teaching people initially EFT, then advanced EFT. Then we progressively developed our own approach that we agreed to call simple energy techniques, because we agreed with Gary Craig that what we were doing was not exactly the same as EFT. We had simplified it to the point that you could teach it to little kids even without them knowing the same language as you, and they could get results with it. So it's a simpler, user-friendly, efficient form of tapping based on using the same points that they use in emotional freedom techniques and thought field therapy and other tapping techniques. Was developed by me and this guy here, Dr. David Lake. But now that he's retired, I'm going to take the credit for most of the things that he and I developed together, and a lot of them that he developed. If you know tapping, then you know these points. We use all of these points in intention tapping, and we teach them to our clients. And it's a simple process of tapping on them using your dominant, the fingers of your dominant hand, and just tapping gently on the points on either side of the body. And we also incorporate points on the hand. Okay, some people who learn EFT, you don't use the hand points anymore other than the side of hand spot. But we find that these points on the thumb and fingers and side of the hand and the wrist points and so on, we find them to be exceedingly useful just along as well as the upper body points. So I'm going to demonstrate this to you, but those of you who know tapping, and I can see I saw a lot of familiar names in the list there, you know that tapping is good for you, and that in our approach, if you just tap, you can get the benefits of tuning and toning your energy system in positive ways. So just a reminder to those of you who know tapping, you can start tapping now. And for those of you who don't, when I do the demo, you can follow along with tapping on those points along with me and the person who volunteers. So we like to apply in 100% yes. We like to first of all find out what's getting in the way, and one of the best ways to identify your blocking beliefs is to set yourself a big goal to change something, and then notice what comes up. Notice the challenging thoughts and feelings that arise for you, and often they just come up just because you think about changing something. You think, oh, I'm going to do this, or I'm going to achieve this, or we're going to build that. And your mind goes, no, you're not. You're not good enough for that. You're not whatever enough. You know, you don't have enough. You know, discipline was an example of something that came up this morning. You know, you're too lazy. That's the kind of stuff we worked on. If you have a look at the demonstration session for the other group, but you can also ask some questions like, what would need to happen for you to succeed? Well, that's going to identify your beliefs about that. What prevents you from having that now? What prevents you from doing that now? What prevents you from being successful right now? Your answers to those questions are going to reveal some of your blocking beliefs. And one that my good friend Carol Look likes to use, and I think it's really a helpful one, is what would be the downside of success? because, you know, if it's all 100% yes, you just need to go for it. But most people, when they think about it, there's a yes and a no. There's a, yeah, this would be great, but look at all this stuff that would come along that wouldn't be great. And that's what holds people back. Now, when we use intention tapping on negative beliefs, this is the kind of process that we use. And I'm really skipping here because I'm gonna demonstrate the intention tapping to you in a moment. But I know that some of you will go back on these slides, and I will actually upload the slides so that you'll have access to them alongside the recordings of the video. We start by releasing emotional attachments to the belief itself, however you are aware of it. Okay, so a lot of people, they're aware of it as like a thought, and the thought might be, you know, I'm not good enough. Or it might be kind of like a voice in your head saying, you're not good enough, okay? Or it might be an image you have of yourself. You know, maybe you see yourself a certain way in relationship to other people. Whatever you're aware of, that you can just simply start tapping and start releasing your emotional attachments to that belief, however you're aware of it. And then any belief that has any power over you is going to have some feelings, and it's going to be experienced in the body somehow. And you might not know what that is initially, so you might need to just start at, you know, the thought level. And then progressively, once you release a few emotional attachments, typically you get access to what's going on in the body, and then you can restore the energy flow to the feelings and to the body location of the belief. And then with intention tapping, we just notice and accept and follow whatever comes next. And that way we work through all the different parts and pieces and aspects of the problem, releasing attachments and restoring energy flow as we go to whatever comes up, whether it's past experiences where you learned that belief, times where you felt these feelings before, related events, other beliefs that are attached to this one, vows that you made in, you know, in moments of stress, or meanings that you took from things where, you know, you took the meaning that, you know, you're unlovable or you don't deserve this or whatever. And these are what I call trance patterns, because you kind of go into a trance. You think about this thing and you get a certain negative reaction, and a stuck feeling leads you into stuck perspectives. And so, and then that leads you into stuck behaviors. And so once you start, you know, releasing those attachments and restoring that energy flow, then you can think differently, and you're not stuck in one way of seeing it. You're not stuck in one feeling, and you're able to go with the flow and move differently and see things differently. In this approach, the attachments, it's not what happened to you. It's not the events that have happened to you in your life. It's not the thoughts that you're having that are controlling you. It's the emotional attachments to those things. And those are, you know, the meanings you took from what happened to you, the beliefs that you formed, which really are just strongly emotionally attached thoughts. That's what most beliefs are, okay? They're just concepts, and they just have emotion attached to them. Why? Because they get formed in times when we're suffering and when we're having, you know, really negative things happen. And so we attach meaning to that. This means I will never get what I want. This means I'm not lovable. This means, you know, the world is a scary place. This means women are bad, men are bad, whatever, okay? And that stuff keeps playing and keeps playing and keeps playing out until you release your attachment to it. And when you do that, your life can change, and it can change big time. Okay, so there's a particular type of belief that we like to focus in on in 100% yes, and that's your values beliefs. And your values are your beliefs about what's most important. And the simple version of values, and a lot of people do this in programs, is work out what's really the most important things and spend most of your time on that, most of your money on that, most of your energy on that, and then link your goals to your highest values. Great. Live your values, you know, just ask yourself what's really important, what really matters. And if if those things really are your true values, then you just go for it. You just live your life based on your values. The only challenge is that you can have conflicts in your values. You can have false values. You can have attachments to negative things, even within positive values. So a lot of you know that love is my number one value, and here is my beautiful little family, and I love them a lot. And, you know, family links to values of love and connection and support and fun and all kinds of good things to me. But even though love is a high value of mine, a lot of my life, I thought I was being loving and I was really being needy. And the reason why I was being needy was because I was coming from a background of feeling unloved and feeling like I never had enough love. And therefore, you know, I was kind of just, I could say I was greedy for love or needy for love. And, you know, my poor wife, who had to put up with me at, you know, earlier stages in my life when I was a lot more needy than I am now, before I did my own 100% yes process. You know, back then she had to tell me she loved me, because that's how I, you know, I need you to tell me that you love me, and then you have to tell me again, then you have to tell me again, you know. And she doesn't have that need because she didn't grow up with that feeling of not being loved. I did. And so that wasn't really very loving of me. And so when I did my own tapping on my value of love, and I realized that where I learned that was mostly experiences of feeling unloved and unlovable, and I did the tapping on those connections, that just freed me to feel more loving, particularly towards my dad, who I had lots of anger for before that. And, you know, I was able to see his life in perspective and see that he really did love me. He just couldn't say it and often couldn't show it. And I was able to feel love and hold on to love that before it just kind of went through me, like, you know, it just didn't stay. And so I would go back into these horrible states of feeling unloved and unlovable just on a regular basis. So values at their core are actually your beliefs about what is most important to feel and experience. So even if you think your family is your, you know, you value your family, it's the feelings that you want from family that you really are driven by. And if you want love from your family and your family isn't being loving, then you'll take your family to therapy and say, this family needs to be fixed, you know, because what you're really after is the emotion behind this. Nobody really wants money. They want what money will give them. And maybe it's freedom for you, or maybe it's security that you're after. When you know what you're really after, you know that it's not about the money. It's actually about the freedom, or about the security, or about the adventure, or about the challenge, or about the love, or about what you can really do with it. That's what really drives you. So we want to find out what these are, because right now you're being influenced by things that were hardwired into your nervous system emotionally. And so you are driven to seek certain things and avoid other things. And some of that is just BS. Some of it is false values that were wired into your nervous system. And even if it's freedom, you know, I work with a lot of people who are really driven to seek freedom, but what they're really doing is they're running away from something. They just have to do the opposite of anything anyone tells them to do. Well, come on. Real freedom includes the freedom to commit. And this is a problem a lot of people have, is that they can't commit to things that are going to be really good to them because they're attached to a false value of freedom. So this is just an example of one way that this can happen. If you're not happy, if you're not doing what you want to do, if you're not doing some of the things that you believe you should do or that are going to be good for you, all of this stuff is a sign that you have an underlying values challenge or a conflict in your values. And if you can release your attachments to false values and values conflicts and get clear on your true values and live them, that's when you're going to have a happier life. And that's when you're going to actually more easily achieve goals, because this will be what you really want. And you'll know that it's good for you on every level, and you won't be held back. So my aim here is to demonstrate intention tapping, and I particularly want to do this for someone who feels like they are held back, and hopefully I can bring out using the intention tapping on some of your blocking beliefs. But I particularly in this session want to focus in on values, because we did a bit of work on beliefs in the other group. I want to try and emphasize the work on values in this particular group. So I'm looking for a volunteer. It needs to be someone who has good internet, who is able to switch on their video and be seen, and is okay about being recorded. And what else? Yeah, and you have to have something that you feel like you're being held back by. You want to overcome this, and you want to achieve any particular goal for you. So if you let me know who you are by typing in the chat, then we'll bring you online, and hopefully we can do some work together, and we can help everybody who's here to learn something and gain something. But I need someone to volunteer. So type in the chat right now. Let me know if you want to be a volunteer, and we'll promote you. Okay, Romana. Okay. So let me just come to the participants list, and I will bring you on and promote you to panelist. Okay, Romana, so you should be able to click on whatever just came up on your computer. Come on with me, and we're going to do a little bit of intention tapping to get underneath whatever's happening with your blocking beliefs and any values issues that you might be having in regards to your goals. Hi. Okay, Romana, where are you?
You mean physically in Slovenia?
In Slovenia. Okay,
Europe.
right. Okay, can you bring your camera down just a little bit so we can see a little bit more of you? That would be great. Excellent.
Yep.
Thank you. Yeah, good. All right, now, are you familiar with tapping?
Yes.
Good. Do you know how I do tapping?
No.
Okay, but you know the tapping points.
Yeah. I'm EFT practitioner.
Okay, so we're going to use the same points as EFT, and so you can just start tapping on those points. We're not using setup statements, so just start tapping on any of the points. You can tap on them in any order. You know, you can follow me, and if anybody who's brand new to tapping, maybe just watch me and just follow the points that I'm tapping on, and then just tap along with that. But Romana, you can be tapping wherever you like. I just want to know that you are tapping, okay? And you can tap on the upper body points. I presume you're actually tapping on the finger points or something like that. Is that right? Okay. So you know the finger tapping as well. So I'll just start with the upper body points just to give people something else to follow along with. And everybody else, if you know tapping, start tapping and tap now. You don't have to type on the same points as me, because once I've got started with this, I'm going to actually be tapping on the finger points. And of course, you can tap on them like this, but you can also tap on them like this. You can let the thumb of the same hand tap on the finger points of the same hand. And this is really good for discrete tapping. Take it out in public. You can use it wherever you need it, and so on. So you can be doing it under the table or underneath the Zoom camera, and nobody knows that you're doing it. Okay, so Romana, what's your goal? What is it you want to do that you're feeling like you're held back from?
Yeah, well, it's about family, so it's about values.
Mm-hmm.
So having family, well, support the family is one of my strong values, but it was taken advantage of a lot. Like I grew up with very narcissistic mother, discovered narcissist, and basically all the strongest values and my inner, like who I am, was used against me. So basically I need to set very strong boundaries, you know, not having my family first, but having me first.
Okay, so because you've got this value, you're you keep getting hooked into this stuff and then bad things happen because they treat you badly. Is that right?
Exactly.
Okay. So, of course, you're expecting them to behave the way they should behave.
Well, one of the hardest things for me was first educate myself. So, and then in emotional sense, admit that, yes, they are really harming me. Like,
yes, they are. Okay, which
so,
means that you're kind of, you know, anyway, you and them have different values and different beliefs, right? And that's
yeah,
okay.
that's the point. And yeah.
So we're tapping. And what we're going to do, the great thing about intention tapping is that we can just start globally. We don't have to be so specific as they are in EFT. So just say, I release.
I release
All my emotional attachments.
all my emotional attachments.
To all of this family values stuff.
No, to putting my family first.
No. I want you to say it as I say it. All right? And,
okay.
And then just I know that you know exactly what the issues are, but I want you to say it this way and then let it do what it does.
Okay.
Now,
okay.
You'll also have to deal with me telling you what to do, right? And you might have.
okay. Let's try.
I want you to just let it do this and then just see what it does, because you're not going to lose anything that's good and true for you. All right. So just say, I release all my emotional attachments.
I release all my emotional attachments.
To all this values, family stuff.
With all this values, family stuff.
And just let it go.
And just let it go.
No. I'm telling you, just let it go. You don't need to say that. Now you just keep tapping.
Okay.
And whatever is important from that, your unconscious mind will bring up. Okay. So I know in EFT you learn to be specific. We're not doing that here. We're just going to let our unconscious mind give us the aspects. So your job is just to tap. And then just notice.
I tell you what's going on?
Yeah. Tell me what.
I have a response in my lower stomach right now.
Beautiful.
Like a sick feeling.
Okay. So that's perfect. It's not perfect, but it's perfect. So just say, I restore.
I restore.
The right energy flow.
The right energy flow.
To my stomach.
To my stomach.
And now don't try and make it do anything. Just keep tapping and just notice. So I'll just show everybody that I'm still tapping on the finger points along with you. And just keep tapping and notice whatever happens, whatever comes next. And whenever you feel ready, just let me know whatever's you're noticing.
This movement through.
Yeah. So this is what happens, is that energy that was kind of stuck in that area connected to this problem, now it starts to move, and sometimes it moves up and sometimes it moves out and sometimes it moves somewhere else and so on. So we want our feelings to move and move through us, and we're just facilitating that flow. And so as long as it's moving and you're okay with it, just let it do whatever it does and just keep tapping. And then just notice what comes next. And tell me what you notice, whether it's a thought or a feeling.
Just strong pain in my pelvis area, hip area.
Did you say it's dropping?
Strong, very strong pain.
Strong pain, sorry. Okay. So just notice that pain in your hip area and just say, I restore.
I restore.
The right energy flow.
The right energy flow.
To this feeling.
To this feeling.
Yeah. And anyone who's new to tapping, you'll see the sighing and the body movements and yawning. That's all signs of energy movement in the body, which is just what happens with tapping and what happens with intention tapping. And what's it doing?
Lots of sensations. Now it's in my back.
Okay.
That, but
Yeah, about that level. Okay. So we just follow it. And if it's still moving, then you just keep tapping and let it keep moving. But if it gets stuck or you know, it gets stronger, or you notice something significant, then you can focus on that. And that just becomes the next aspect of the process. And we just apply the process to that.
it's like a big burden on my shoulders.
Okay, good. So now you've got like the feeling, but there's a thought connected to that, right? So the thought is the burden, of course, because this is often connected with family issues, the feeling of it being a burden. Okay, so just say, I release all my emotional attachments to this burden. And then just let it do what it does. And keep tapping. And just notice.
Like blink, like a memory of all this yelling at me and judgments.
Yeah. So this is often what happens, is that up from your subconscious will come memories and so on, which are connected to the problem that you're having right now. Okay. So just say, and just notice those memories. And you don't have to make all the words for this like you do in EFT. Just say, I release all my emotional attachments to these memories and the yelling. And just let it do what it does. No, you've accidentally muted yourself. So if you don't.
No, I intentionally muted myself because of burping.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
Sure. So notice there's a lot of, you know, this is the same thing that you probably experience with EFT, is these kinds of shifts. And each time you do the intentions, it just tends to happen spontaneously. And that's the shifting of the aspect, and it moves, and then another aspect moves through, or another part of the body, or another memory, or another image, or another thought, all comes through. And we just follow and notice.
Now the pain is back in my hip area.
Yeah. And this
and
is
in
often
my eyes.
There's a certain areas in the body that are associated with problems for us quite often. And so just say, I restore.
It is.
Sorry, I restore.
I restore.
The right energy flow and balance.
Right energy flow and balance.
In my hips.
In my hips. There's something that I would love to run away from.
Yeah. Okay. So just say, I release all my emotional attachments.
I release all my emotional attachments.
To running away.
To running away.
Yeah. So sometimes, of course, that's the, you know, the root experiences of some of these things which are painful can come up. And so the impulses connected to them come up.
Mhm.
I say that values are things that we move towards and things that we move away from. And so there are what could be called towards values and what could be called avoid values. And so, of course, we want to avoid bad feelings, so we try to move away from them. We'll keep tapping, just tell me what you're noticing.
Pain got stronger.
Yeah.
My ovaries.
Okay, so just say I restore the right energy flow
I restored the right energy flow
to my ovaries.
to my ovaries.
And just let it percolate through and do whatever it does. And just notice.
It's back again. Now it's here.
Okay. And so we follow wherever it goes in the body. And if there's still a disturbance or a blockage, we just say the same thing. I restore.
I restore.
Right energy flow.
Right energy flow.
To my chest.
In my chest.
And my heart.
And my heart. Have been deceived a lot.
Yeah. And of course, you keep going to the lion's den and putting your head in the lion's mouth, it seems, because you're driven by all these positive values to do these nice things or to look for these nice things, and you've been hurt. So it's kind of like approach, avoid, yeah. Sometimes, and I just finished working with a client yesterday, and he had this issue with his family where he kept trying to get love from people who weren't able to give this to him. And
that, yes.
So just say I release.
I release.
All my emotional attachments.
All my emotional attachments.
To what I'm looking for.
To what I'm looking for.
Now that sounds strange to do it on that. Like, why would I want to release attachments to what I'm looking for? Well, actually,
no, it's correct. It's good, because if you're too attached, you lose the sight. You are too.
That's right. We might be attached to a fantasy of how it should be, or we might be attached to a craving of, driven by anxiety. And so you never lose anything that's good and real and true when you release emotional attachments. So just notice.
My neck hurts.
I restore.
I restore.
Right energy flow.
Right energy flow.
My neck.
In my neck.
And shoulders.
And shoulders.
And back.
And back.
You keep sparing us from the noise, but you know, you want to see some of my one of my French webinar, you know, with a client who was making lots of loud noises, and you wouldn't be so worried.
It's not necessary for everything to have on the recording.
But that's okay. It's important for people to know that there are lots of different ways of releasing, and sometimes sound is part of that process, and sometimes, you know, some people yawn and some people burp and some people shake, and people have all kinds of different ways of releasing. That's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. Yeah. That's okay. And just see what you're noticing.
Kind of loosened everything. It's more relaxed.
Yeah. Okay. So just for the sake of the exercise, you said support.
Mm-hmm.
And support is an important value to you. Yes?
Mm-hmm.
And
like to be there when they need you, or for others to be there when I need them.
Yeah. And it's pretty clear that there was a lot of that not there for you. And that's why that's such an important value for you now, right? That's one of the reasons. You know, there's the
Well, I don't know because, but I think I'm the person who values that, and some people are just
that's true.
Opportunity takers.
Sure. Okay. So just say I released all my emotional attachments.
I release all my emotional attachments
To support.
To support.
And lack of support.
And lack of support.
And keep tapping. And just notice what you think, what you feel, what you're aware of.
It's about acknowledging the truth. Like you don't go for a bread into hardware store.
Correct.
So not asking for whatever from people who cannot give it to me.
That's right.
Well,
but
on the other hand, yeah, just see them as they are. That's it.
There it is. And that's what we can spend an entire lifetime not seeing. Because of course,
it's painful. It's emotionally painful.
That's right. And the little child that keeps going looking for that and keeps getting rebuffed and hurt and so on. Of course, that's, you know, those experiences are sometimes still inside us and driving us to never give up, and you know, and so
yeah. Never give up. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, yeah, no, let's not give up on the goal of support and so on. Let's just give up on the strategy of seeking it from unsupportive people or destructive people.
Just see people as they are.
Yeah. Yeah.
Period.
Yeah, that's right. And you've obviously done a lot of work on this. So this isn't the first time you've worked on this. So it's good. But as you see, there's still some more aspects, and it's yeah, I really appreciate your willingness to bring that out. What's happening right now? If you just scan through your body, just notice whatever you notice.
It's a little more relaxed in my lower stomach.
Mm-hmm.
It's a warmth in my stomach, right in my stomach, and it's still kind of burden on my shoulders.
Cool. Yeah.
But it's not that dense. It's not that pushing.
Yeah. So there's still some more work on the burden because you've grown up with the burden, and there's a lot of stuff that you're having to carry that's obviously causing some of these issues with your neck and shoulders.
Or I don't need to carry, and I need to acknowledge that for me.
All right. Well, let's just try one more statement. Just say I release all my emotional attachments.
I release all my emotional attachments.
To everything I've been carrying.
To everything I've been carrying.
That I don't need to carry anymore.
I don't need to carry.
and just notice. We're not trying to make anything happen here. We're not trying to, these are not positive affirmations or anything like that. If you notice, you know, that something comes up, if there's a resistance to that thought, then let's hear it.
It's again in my ovaries.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit different sensation, not painful, but like a presence.
Yeah. And just say, I restore.
I restore.
Right energy flow to this area.
Right energy flow to this area.
And this sensation.
And sensation.
So everybody who's hopefully tapping along here, and I hope you have been, you'll notice Romana, you know, has lots of energy moving through, and, you know, you're a quite bodily kinesthetic person, so you're aware of energy movements in your body and those kind of sensations. Not everybody is as kinesthetically aware, we would call that, or aware of what's going on in their body as you are. But as you use these, you can see the energy movement, and you can feel it.
Makes it easier.
Yeah. All right. So we're going to have to pause here just because of the time. Do you have any feedback about this process? Just briefly.
Well, I'm just happy my friend and colleague from Australia, Dr. Larry Newman, she told me about you. So I accepted basically her invitation, or here it is, go check, and I'm glad I did.
Right. Okay.
It's very interesting, and in a way it's nice that you don't need to if you really want to focus on one specific thing, sometimes you go to your head too much.
Yeah, that's the danger, because your conscious mind thinks that it's in control. Well,
yeah, and it's not. And it's not. So
you were able to consciously change this up till now, you would have. So when we use intention tapping, we're actually giving the direction here to the unconscious mind.
Yeah.
And the unconscious mind will start to unravel that for you, and it will give you whatever's next. And then we just follow the energy rather than
thank you.
Stuck in the thoughts.
Very interesting approach. Yeah.
Well, thank you.
According to the movement, it's great.
Yeah. So far, so good. All right. So thank you so much for being our volunteer. I really appreciate it. And I'd love to hear some feedback of how this works out for you, especially if you keep on doing the tapping.
I'll let you know.
Yeah, great. Thank you,
Thank you.
Romana. Yeah, appreciate that. So I'm just going to put you back as attendee. Some lovely comments coming through from people in the group. So thank you, everybody. Thanks, Sue and Carol and Annette. Annette says a lot of important insights came up for me, and I feel more relaxed around a value conflict I was not aware of before. Annalisa, thank you, Steve and Romana. Carol, thanks. Great demo. Thanks for that feedback, and thanks for expressing your appreciation. So what are we doing here? Okay, for the people who are brand new, I just want to come back to this slide here very quickly, number 9. And I just want to tell you that whatever you identify as an issue or a block or a challenge, you can just simply notice whatever the problem is and just focus on that problem and say, I release all my emotional attachments to this problem. If you have a disturbance in the body, you can notice where that disturbance is, and you can say, I restore the right energy flow to this body area. Now, of course, you can also just do tapping, and you can follow what's happening in your thoughts and your feelings as you go. But this process of using these intentions really, as you can see, just allows movement and flow and shifting through that, through different aspects and so on. And some of the biggest stuff that you can work on is your beliefs. So if you're blocked, if you're not moving forward, if you're having a challenge of getting started, then set your goal, notice what the blocks are that are coming up, and then start doing some releasing emotional attachments to them, or notice the disturbance in the body, start restoring the energy flow to them. Now you'll notice I'm saying energy flow rather than balance, because I don't want to confuse you right now. I'd prefer you to just use these two main statements, and that will take you a long, long way. And of course, if you want to learn more, come and do some of our other trainings and learn a little bit more about some more distinctions about that stuff. But you can go a long way releasing emotional attachments and restoring energy flow, and combining that with tapping. It's a very, very powerful process. Now, with values, the conflicts and issues often come up when you want this and you want that, or you want this or that. And so you can just put that dilemma out in front of you and just say, I release all my emotional attachments to this dilemma, and then just see what comes next. And that can help you to kind of clarify things. Also, if you want to work on values themselves, then think about, okay, what's really important to me, or what is it that I want to get from this in terms of feelings and emotions that are important to me? And then you can start using the intention statements on those values as beliefs. So let's say, for example, one of your values is, let's say it's support. And you say, okay, I release all my emotional attachments to support. A lot of you are going to find that what's going to come up is lots of feelings of being unsupported, and lots of feelings of where you didn't get the support you wanted, and all that stuff. And when that clears out, lo and behold, you will start to feel a lot more clarity around support for you. And you might even start to feel that, yeah, I am supported, and I don't have to get support from here where it can't be got from. I can get it from over here. That's just one example of that anyway. Now, we're really short on time, and I hope that some of you will consider going further with me. So of course, I want to mention that we do have workshops coming up. There's a level 1 workshop for people who want to learn about using intention tapping. It's the best starting point for really working out how to use it for yourself and for other people. We have a couple of different ones coming up with different time options for people from different parts of the world. And you can find this on the intention tapping website. You can also find a lot of free videos on that website. It's intentiontapping.com. And if you go to the events and training page, you can find out all the programs that are coming up in the short term. Now, this process of what I call 100% yes, of clarifying your version of success, getting clear on your true values and your goals, and releasing what's holding you back from going for it, and using intention tapping to help you to do this, to get over your fears, to achieve your goals, to live your life based on your values. That's the thing that I would love to have some of you who want to go further join me. I know, there's only a certain amount we can fit into a short time like this. 100% Yes has 12 fortnightly sessions, or approximately fortnightly sessions, over 6 whole months. And the price has been the same for 4 years. I know inflation is going through the roof everywhere. I've not changed the price for years with this. The early bird is still $4.99 in Aussie dollars. And this is on the EFTdownunder.com website. You can find the Yes Tapping group there. You can also go to the links from the events pages on EFTdownunder.com or intentiontapping.com. The other thing is you get the program, you'll get the recordings from both groups. You also get a whole bunch of other programs that I have recorded. The Go For It program, which is a series of short videos that take you through the step-by-step process of 100% Yes. A program on the power of intention tapping, a program on overcome procrastination with intention tapping, a copy of the 100% Yes ebook, and a support community where everybody gets together and supports each other online and just continues the process that happens in the group sessions. Overall, it's well over $1,500 of value. It's $4.99 Aussie. I don't know what that is in euros, but in there's a US dollar 379. So I imagine euros are not too different to that. So I consider that it's cheap as chips for those of you who want to come along. Now, we only have a few minutes left. Thank you, Carol. Thank you, Carol, for your lovely comments. She says the 100% Yes course is life-changing. Yes, it is. It really is. I did it on myself, on my own love value, and it's just changed my whole life. And you know, I've been running this over many years and trying to incorporate the best of what I learned to update it. So you'll be getting the updated version of this. And the great thing about this is that when you do this on your beliefs, when you do it on your values, then your concept of what your life is about and what success is to you completely changes, and you're no longer stuck in the limiting version of what was possible for you that you might have been attached to before. So thank you so much for joining me. And I actually have ended up with a little bit of spare time, so I'm not going to go away. I'm going to hang around and answer a couple of questions. If anybody wants to ask a question about this process, especially if you're brand new, I realize I've skipped through some things here that maybe, you know, you want to ask a simple question about the tapping or a question about the intention tapping process. I'd be happy to stay around for a couple of minutes and answer those questions. So you can either type it in the Q&A or you can just type it in the chat and let me know what you'd like to know. Anything about, you know, how do you apply it to this problem? How do you apply it to this issue? Of course, I can, you know, I can just rabbit on for another few minutes as well. But unfortunately, I don't have time to do another demo. I'd love to spend a bit more time tapping with you, but I don't really have time to do that. I do want to encourage you to just go away and use this simple process for yourself. Just notice any problem and say, I release all my emotional attachments to this problem. Notice any disturbance in your body and just say, I restore the right energy flow to this area or to this feeling. Sue says, tapping along with your session with Romana allowed me to sob and sob as you were helping me to connect. Thank you, Steve. I'll thank you, Sue, for giving us that feedback. I really, really appreciate that. This is one of the great things about working in a group. And I know today we don't all get to see each other. In 100% Yes, it's a true group where everybody sees each other on Zoom. And then we all tap along when we're working on, anybody's working on a particular issue. And everybody borrows benefits from the work that other people do. ZC says, please remind us, if we don't know what we value, how to find it out. So the starting point for finding out what your values are is asking yourself, what's most important to me? And so your life values, they're the answer to the question, like, what's most important to me in my life? Now, some of those things are going to come up, and this is where, you know, in 100% Yes, it gets a little more, you need to go a little bit deeper, because, for example, people will say, well, what's most important to me is family, and what's most important to me is travel, you know, and what's most important to me is you know, having a good job or whatever. Well, those are the means to the ends that you're really after. So underneath that, what you really want is what you think those things are going to give you. So I'll just tell you a story. I was working with a sporting group years ago, and I said, okay, someone tell me one of your goals. Tell me anything you want. And this guy says, oh, I want 1100cc motorbike, you know, really big, tough guy. And I said, okay, if you have that motorbike, what's that going to give you? He says, power. Okay. Now, what he wants is, of course, a big motorbike has a lot of power, but he also connects in his nervous system that if he has the big motorbike, he's going to be a more powerful person. He's going to, you know, feel feelings of power. And so, of course, the feelings of power do not come from having a big motorbike. But for some people, they do. They get the motorbike and they're like, now I'm a powerful person. Well, you know what this is? is the Wizard of Oz. Okay? Because the feelings are not in the things. We have connected feelings to those things. And some people, they get the powerful motorbike and they still don't feel like a powerful person because they haven't learned to change the feelings inside them. So when we look at values, we want to look at the feelings that we connect to these things. That's what we really value. So if you have family, what does family give you that you're after? Is it love? Is it support? Is it connection? Is it fun? Like, you know, these are my values. One woman, when I asked her, she said, what I want from my family is challenge. I said, I don't. If I get challenged from my family, I'm going to take them to therapy. So values are personal. Values are what's important to you, what it is that you actually really, really want. And I think they're really crucial because they're dictating right now what's driving you to do this and what's driving you to do that, what's driving you towards this and what's driving you away from that. And some of those are just hooks that were put into your nervous system a long, long time ago. Sometimes it's just beautiful. You grow up in a beautiful, loving family and you spread the love because you're just, you know, you learn to love. And so you value that because it was valued in your family and, you know, you're just passing it on. But others of us, like me, you know, you feel like you didn't get that love. And so, yeah, you value love, but inside you, you have this feeling of like, I'm lacking this. I don't have this. That's the stuff that we want to use the intention tapping on. It can be so, so freeing and so wonderful to get over that. I had another woman in a workshop, you know, we were looking at values and she said, oh, peace, that's the thing what I want. And I just knew in that moment, I said, did you come from a lot of conflict? And she broke down. She was like, yes, my whole family life in early life was all full of conflict and chaos. And so, of course, we did a lot of tapping and releasing on that conflict. And then she was free to actually experience more internal peace, because that's the real thing, is where you get to feel this inside. That's what we're after. That's why we want the things, because we want how we think that will allow us to feel. Okay, so thank you for that question. And thank you, Ramana. Ramana's saying it's hard to know yourself if you don't know your values. I think it's so true. And that's why values is a core part of what I consider to be 100% yes. You know, it's one thing not to achieve a goal, but if you don't live your values, then you're not having your best life, because your values are actually about what's most important to you. And when I say values here, I'm talking about your true values. Some of the things that you think you value, maybe your teachers valued or your parents valued, but they may not be your true values. You just got hooked up to them because they punished you if you didn't do that, or they made you feel good if you did that. And once you release some of that, you can go, well, no, I don't have to do that anymore. I don't have to live like that. I don't have to do it the way everybody else thinks I should do it. And then you get free to live your life your way. All right, so thanks for that question. It gave us the chance to get to this time now. And I know some of you have made commitments and you have to go. I really appreciate you coming out and spending this time with me. Or if you're watching this on the replay, I really appreciate you watching through to this point. And I would love to see you, and I look forward to seeing you when it's the right time. If that is to come and join me at 100% yes, or join me at an intention tapping workshop, then I would love that. And ultimately, we'll get to see each other face to face when when we start getting out a little bit more. We're planning some of those programs now, and we'll progressively be letting you know once we start getting out to other countries again. So thanks again. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for those people who gave the good feedback already. And yeah, keep tapping, keep releasing, keep restoring, and live life your way. Thank you. Thanks, Annalisa. And thanks, everybody. Ciao for now. Okay.